Let's bring in Democratic Congressman from Maryland, Johnny Olszewski, who joins me now here in Washington. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with something that Speaker Johnson said in the idea of a no kings rally, that if it were a king, there would be no protests. They were largely peaceful, no mass arrests. What do you say to that?
Well, first, I want to applaud everyone who demonstrated peacefully. Violence has no place in our society, and people who were violent deserve to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I'll say, people joined in exercising a fundamental First Amendment right to protest, to exercise free speech, because they're concerned about where this country is going. And we might not be there now, but I will say that I think what happened yesterday is very important. It's important because people are concerned about the way this country is going, the direction of this country. And I think that concern was reinforced when the president himself, I don't know if your viewers have seen this yet, posted to me a very troubling video of him entering a fighter jet that said King Trump on it. He's wearing a crown, and he's dumping feces on the American people who are protesting. And so I think it sort of reinforced the point of why yesterday was, in fact, so important.
Moving now to the government shutdown, are you getting a sense that leaders in the Democratic and Republican Party are moving towards something to finally end this?
Yeah, unfortunately not. And we know that in the process of that, we see federal workers who are struggling to pay their mortgage and feed their kids. We see the American people who are not having vital services provided to them. And, for me, it's a very fundamental issue. Let's get together in a room and talk. I think the American people are tired of us going to our corners, having countervailing press conferences, and failing to actually just sit down. And so if I had my way, I'd put the president, the speaker, the leader, both parties in a room and say, you guys figure out a path forward, because I think overwhelmingly we agree that there is an issue of healthcare that we have to address, that we have to get this government reopened. And the only way we're going to actually reach that compromise is talking to each other. And unfortunately, that's not happening right now.
But shouldn't that come? And I remember covering the Republican shutdowns from a decade ago. And when Democrats would say, we can talk about our differences and issues, keep the government open and take it to the voters and win more seats if you want it to be the other way. So now, aren't Democrats just basically doing the same thing?
I'm really glad you raised that point, because for me, for this Democrat, my bright line in all these negotiations have been about having a bipartisan deal stick. And what I've seen in my 9 months in Congress is to have this president and Republicans in Congress unilaterally go back on what was a bipartisan budget. And they cut $9 billion through cuts, through withholding funding. And so what I need to see in any agreement is that, and this is a budget-specific issue, that any deal we have will actually hold true in the future, that Congress will actually exercise its constitutional power of the purse in those negotiations. I represent Baltimore. We have the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and President Trump has explicitly threatened to cut funding there. So for me, actually knowing that any bipartisan deal will move us forward is actually my bright line in these negotiations. I think healthcare is a really important issue, but for me, that's sort of been the issue that I rely on.
And on the issue of healthcare, Republicans have been making the point that since Obamacare passed, the United States still spends more per capita on healthcare than any other country, and that when you're throwing subsidies at this system, you're throwing subsidies at a wasteful system, and that we need to reform beyond Obamacare. What about that?
Well, I think that speaks to the point, if we get in a room, we can actually find consensus. Healthcare is in dire need of overhaul. We spend more per capita than almost every other industrialized country in the world on healthcare. So we have to come together to find a way to make it more affordable. But what I know is that, and families across America are already seeing their premiums spike by thousands of dollars because we're failing to act on the extension of these subsidies. I think we have to act both now and have that comprehensive dialogue. It goes back to Democrats and Republicans have to find a way to start talking to each other again so we can find a path forward.
Do you think that the Senate Republicans, the deal that they've put on the table, will give you a vote on healthcare subsidies, just reopen the government? Do you think that's a good deal?
I'd like to actually see on paper what that looks like. I'm not in the room in those conversations, but I think, again, it sort of reinforces why I want to see our leaders talking to each other about what that looks like. I want to make sure that it's more than a vote, that we actually are moving forward together. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, not someone I usually agree with on issues, has talked about our urgent need to take action on healthcare now, along with those other issues about reopening the government.
Congressman Johnny Olszewski, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.